Hi, beautiful faces. Welcome back to Face Value. If you're new here, my name is Swazi. I'm a professional makeup artist and a beauty educator.
Oh, you look gorgeous, one. Gorgeous one.
In our last episode, we were talking about the Face Value 5, which are the 5 non-negotiable things you need to understand when doing your makeup, right? And on today's episode, I'll be unpacking those 5 things while I'm doing my makeup in real life. So yeah, as I'm going through with the makeup process, I will take you guys through my thinking process. This is not a tutorial necessarily. This is not about talking about the products that I'll be using, but rather I want to take you in, guys, to my mindset and what I think when I do my own makeup, to make sure that the 5 non-negotiables are well understood, right? The first thing that we're going to do is the skin, which is the first step, right? When I'm doing my skin, I think about my skin type. I have a combination skin tone. My skin changes sometimes from dry to oily, depending on the season, but most of the time it's combination, because when I wear makeup, I always know the areas where I shine a lot. I know the areas where it keeps as dry. What I have in mind when I do my face, my base most especially, is that I hydrate, but at the same time, I make sure that I keep my face in control, right? So that it's not dewy, it's not matte, it's just in between. And yes, the stance is also very much sustainable. So the first thing I will do is moisturize my face. So remember that this is not a step-by-step tutorial, but rather I'm taking you guys into the thought process while I'm doing my makeup. So I apply my moisturizer mostly where I get slightly dry, which is the outer areas of my face. And then the T-zone area, this way I'm gonna go with the choice of my primer. And today I'll be using a mattifying primer. This is just to help my skin look more even during the course of the day. Right, and then I make sure that I diffuse the product in my skin, making sure that it sort of like closes down all the pores, the visible pores, and yeah, my makeup would look stunning. So the next thing I'll be doing after my primer is applying my foundation. Like I mentioned, that I have a combination skin, so when I select my foundation, my powders, my concealers, I make sure I choose medium to full coverage when it comes to my concealer and foundation. And when it comes to powders, I make sure that I use powders not a lot, but I use them quite a lot in areas where I get oily, which is a T-zone in this case, right? So I like waiting for a bit, just everything to, settle in on my skin, and then I go on straight ahead with my foundation. So one other thing that I really like when I do my makeup is to also understand what is the makeup style that I'm doing, right? Where I'm gonna wear it, what is it for, and how do I wanna show up in that certain day. As for today, I want like a very calm, soft glam that is very, not dewy, but also not matte, but something that will look good for good, I would say 12 hours, and something that will still look put together when it's exposed on the sun. Like I said, that my foundation must have a good balance between dewy and matte, and I do have like blemishes around my forehead. If I need to build up on that, I just put a bit more foundation around that area to make sure everything settles well and my spots are not visible. Right, let me just move my duke slightly more. So the method that I use for applying my foundation is I firstly place the foundation where I want it to occur. Then the next thing, I use a very flat brush like this just to kind of like blend it around using circular motion to make sure that my foundation is blended evenly, right? And make sure that you don't put a lot of foundation, just 1 or 2 pumps on something like a palette would be sufficient. Okay, I hope you guys can see that my blemishes are gone, my dark spots are no longer visible. I do have 2 pimples. I can't really hide that, but as long as you can't see any spots, and that means your foundation is blended well. Okay, as I mentioned, that the foundation needs to be medium to full coverage. Then that also goes with my concealer. I also like using 2 concealers, one that will brighten up my under eye because I do have dark areas or dark marks around my under eye. Just to cover that up a bit more, I use I would say 2 tones lighter compared to my complexion, and I also love a nice lift on my under eye face. Then I use a second concealer, which would say it's a 1 tone lighter to my complexion, right? And yeah, let's go for it. And then when I'm doing my concealer, because like I mentioned that I do have a little bit of eye bags, so I do this in order for me to go in there and make sure that there isn't fine lines, and also my concealer is nice and flat and is applied correctly, right? Okay. So when I apply my concealer, I know exactly where I want it to be. I apply it just right underneath my under eye. I like using a remaining product on the applicator because in that way I don't have to use a lot of product. Instead, I sort of can control the amount of product that I'm using under my eye. And because of the soft glam makeup look I've chosen to do today, I don't want a lot of products in my skin. And yeah, in that way, I just make sure that the placement is done right. I'm looking for the second concealer. Don't forget when you're doing your other eye that you stretch, you do this to make sure that your concealer goes right underneath and gives you a nice lift, right? So it's very important to understand the choice, like I said, the choice of your foundation and concealer. They will really help for your concealer and your foundation to also blend well together. So when I do my makeup, I like saying this one thing, that I like creating a face that is put together, like creating in harmony, where you can't really say that this is a concealer, this is a foundation. Everything, when it comes together, it looks like I've worn, let's say, a mask that's been perfectly done, And with that said, the best way to do that is to understand, obviously, your features really, really well, but also when it comes to placement, you make sure you place everything well, and blending is the most important part of it all. When blending, I like to have a very soft hand, and yes, I do blend immediately after applying the product, simply because some concealers or some products, they dry instantly after applying them. So in order for you to move it and to have it settle very well under the eye or whatever section that you will be applying in, you just have to apply it first and then blend it immediately. Wait for, I'd say, 30 seconds to 1 minute, and then you can blend again and you start setting it with the setting powder. So guys can see that I'm kind of struggling here because it's already dry. If you let your concealer sit without being blended, it will be very hard for you to remove those harsh lines, and then your under eye would not necessarily look as flawless as you would wish. Okay, as I was saying, that your skin type, it does influence your product selection. I'm talking about the colors that you'll be selecting. For instance, if you know your skin type and your skin undertone, yes, that's the word I'm looking for, undertone, is that it will determine how to choose the color selection. For instance, when it comes to my skin, I have a golden undertone. So I have a warm undertone. It gives that yellow shade or color. And if you, like myself, you have that, yellow undertone. All your makeup selections, I think all products actually, they do write at the back where they write the ingredients and the types of the product. They do specify that these products are good for this type of, undertone. So also when you choose a range, make sure that the undertones are well understood. Okay, if you feel like you haven't enough, you don't have enough of product, let's say under the eye, or you've blended a bit more, you can reapply. This will just help to flatten the under eye. Like I said, everything also boils down to the fact that what type of makeup do you want to have in that specific time. And yeah, like myself, I want a very flat, not necessarily too flat under eye, but I do want my face to have different dimension, right? I don't want to look more blend. I do want different sculptured shapes on my face, just to enhance what I already have. Okay, as you guys can see that I do have a concealer, right, which is light on my nose bridge. So what I will do is use a darker shade to contour my nose. With contouring my nose, I'm basically cleaning up the white concealer lines, which is we call the harsh lines. And you guys will see I will do it just now using a small brush. And when it comes to selection of a color of the darker shade, either could be a concealer or it could be a powder. I prefer a powder. You use a shade that is at least one tone darker, if not your natural complexion shade, right? So I personally prefer powders when it comes to contouring my face, compared to using liquid product such as a concealer or a eyeshadow, or a concealer or a foundation stick or a contouring stick. So now my goal here is to close down my nose and make them look so small. Again, when contouring your nose, it's very important to understand your nose structure, right? Because it will lead or guide you how you can control your nose so that it looks neat, it looks appropriate. They don't stand out in a very awkward way. They still look put together. They look like your nose, what we call that your nose looks snatched, right? So use your bone, the bones on the side of your nose as a guide where you can sort of draw that contouring. Okay, that was quick. Then I'm going to throw in the powders. I like using a pressed powder and a translucent powder. Translucent powder to help me set my under eye, and a pressed powder to help also with setting my under eye, but also bringing back the complexion on my skin. Because most of the time, translucent powders, they can be quite light. And if you are, I wouldn't say dark, but if you're like myself, my complexion, you need to summon your face to look more to your natural complexion, right? Then I'm gonna stretch my face again and blend for the last time. I'll use a puff this time around to give me a seamless blend before I start pressing in my translucent powder. Okay, we're almost done now with the base, which is the skin. We're gonna move on to the next step, which is the eyes. And we're doing that right after applying this translucent powder. So you apply the powders where you applied your light, concealer, just to set the product and make sure it doesn't move during the duration of the makeup. If you have, let's say, a very small area under your eye and you can't really reach with a brush as big as this one, you can use a very small brush or a cotton pad just to, fit in the product where you need it. And in order for you to move on to the next powder, you just need to make sure that everything looks a bit more matte, like the under eye is set properly. Right, like I said, you apply the powder where you applied the lighter concealer. I also like applying powder just right up my lip because I tend to sweat a bit around that area. But if you feel like it's a bit light, you can still, dilute it with the pressed powder. And on my chin, which is the last area. And one thing I like when using a smaller brush, it confronts exactly where you want the product to be. And the mistake I've seen, quite a number of people do is that they use quite big brush and then they start applying a lot of product where you don't need it. For instance, around your cheeks or around your chin, and you don't need it there. You just need it right up here, right? Okay, now we're moving to the next step, which is doing our eyes. When doing my eyes, I always think about structure, right? And what is my structure strategy? I do have wooded eyes, right? And when I'm doing my eyes, I just make sure that since I have wooded eyes, I don't want my eye to look heavy because it might give me that closed eye vibe, and I don't want that. I want to feel more elevated and enhanced. So when it comes to my color selection for when I'm doing my eyes, I like doing what I call a smoky, but not with the black shade, but with the more like a browns. And I love golds, especially for the soft glam look that I'm about to do. So before I start with doing my eyes, I try to use a shade that's more like a transitioning shade, right? That's going to sort of like give a platform for any color to build up really well. So my transition shade of the day is a very subtle brown. So like I said, I'm going to be using browns just, to create that nice smoky eyeshadow by starting with a lighter brown, filling it in just right on top of my eyeballs, and then go on with a darker brown to contour my eyes. My thinking process here is really just to, not recreate anyone else's eyes, but just to enhance mine and cover up any, occurring flaws that I have, which in this case is my wooded area. So I'm using a darker shade, which is it's helping me to, collect or rather contour my eye so that when I start applying the shimmer, which I'm going for gold today, it shows really nice. It allows it to stand out in a very nice and a very slick way. Just imagine if you can just throw in a gold shade on your eye, it will look so bland, right? Unless that's a desire of an eye look that you have, then go for it. It's really good. But if you really want to have something that's going to stand out a bit more, then using this placement method, it might really, really help you. And I also love pulling it on the side because when I'm creating my makeup or the makeup that I'm doing today, I like to create a nice lift. So everything is sort of like bringing my face up, enhancing it. And I want to look pretty. And if you're using, let's say, shades of eyeshadows that are not too pigmented, it's really okay if you go back to the product and reapply it until you get the richness of the shade that you desire. Because what's more important here is to create a nice harmony. I always say, remember to remove any harsh lines. Harsh lines could literally be between two colors of two eyeshadows that you're trying to mix. Make sure that after applying them or placing them, you also focus on removing any existing harsh lines. Like I said, I like pulling it out because I want it to give me sort of like a facelift. Okay, I'm leaving this space, the inner corner of my eye, because I want to apply my, number one, my eyeshadow base. Secondly, I want to apply the shimmer, the choice of my shimmer for the day. But I'll show you just now how I'm going to do it. Okay. And when doing your makeup, make sure that you have a full view of what you are doing, even if it means going closer to your mirror or standing a bit more behind. You just have to have all the angles to, show you that your makeup is coming along really nicely. Okay, next thing, I'm going to put an eyeshadow base. So eyeshadow base, it helps with flattening up my eye, this part, the inner corner of my eye, and allows the product that I'm going to apply, which is the shimmer, to stand out really nicely and look fresh and flat at the same time. So brush selection in this case is very important. You can't be using a brush that is not small for this part of the eye, because the minute you use a bigger brush, your eyeshadow or that eyeshadow base will start appearing here, and you don't want your eyeshadow base here. Remember, because I have a hooded eye, my goal here is to flatten my eyes. At the same time, I'm trying to create a very soft crease, right? Okay, I don't also go far out with my eyeshadow base, simply because this is where I want my eyeshadow shimmer to be. Next up, I'm going to be using a clean blending brush just to make sure that my eyeshadow base is more set before I go on with anything else. Okay, like I mentioned before, any harsh lines, make sure you remove them. Don't build on harsh lines. Remove them, make sure that they look more subtle. Even when the color selection actually of an eyeshadow base, if you are like myself, you have you're a dark-skinned girl, going for an eyeshadow base that is light really does work out really well, because it will allow your shimmer to stand out really nicely. But also, again, the selection of the color, when it comes to eyeshadow base, it goes with the color that you want to put on top of it, right? But most of the time, just to play it safe, if you go for a white eyeshadow base, you'll always win with the type of eyeshadow you want. Okay, I also like going back and blending until I'm satisfied, because the minute I apply the next product, which is the shimmer, if it starts, standing up or starts picking up the product, obviously it will actually mean that the product hasn't set enough. I always say this when I have my master classes or my one-on-one classes, that every liquid that you apply, as a product of makeup, you have to set it with powder, right? That goes with everything, because you don't want it to start looking dewy, having makeup that is not too balanced. You don't want that. So anything that you apply that is liquid, in the form of liquid, you make sure that you set it with powder. So now I'm going to set my eyeshadow base just a little with my powder. And the powder is the Press White powder. Then, because I really want a very subtle gold, I don't want it to be, that pronounced. So I'm going to use a bit of brown again, just to contour my eyes. So I'm going to go on with the gold that has a gold, warm, yellowish, element in it. And I'll be using a flat brush. So I like using two brushes actually. One, just to apply on this surface, right? But in the smaller one, just to, pencil in the product on the inner corners of my eye. If I use a bigger brush, it will start applying in areas where I don't want it to be. Then I like raising my eyebrows, sort of like trying to see this area, as I try to create a flat eye design. Okay, I'm going to use a smaller brush to pack in the product on the smaller sections, which is here. And then I go back with my contouring brush just to make sure everything, looks more subtle. And there's no harsh lines, everything looks more blended. And it creates the harmony that I want. Okay. Next thing, which is the last thing, part of the eyes. Oh, second last actually. One, I like doing under eye. It could be a black liner or a brown liner, but I think today, I want to play it safe with having to do a brown eyeliner, because I don't really want a heavy eye. Like I mentioned before, I really want to look more polished, but also very flawless, and like a very flawless, polished glam. So I'm going to use a gel liner. Use a small brush and pack in the gel liner on my waterline. I think when it comes to an eyeliner, it's not really based on the undertones when selecting one. It goes with the feels of the type of makeup or how you want to look like for the day. And I mean, you can explore other colors. I've seen people trying pinks, blues. That's really all up to you. Like I mentioned, if you apply anything, you also need to always remember to focus on removing the harsh lines as well. So we're going to use the same brown. I'll try to get the same brown just to blend everything all together. Okay, the next part now that I need to do is creating like a wing liner, again, to contribute to lifting my face up. But unfortunately, guys, when I'm doing my wing liner, I cannot even speak. I need to focus like crazy. So I either use this, which is a professional makeup wing liner applicator, but I also like using the gel liner. Do I have it here? Okay, I don't think I do. Here we go, got it. Right. A lot of people like to say, "But I actually struggle with the wing liner." One thing about a wing liner is one of the things that you need to do it so many times. Practice it quite frequently, even if you're not wearing makeup in that day, just to get the hang of how you can do or just work around your eye design and eye shape. In that way, you don't have to be nervous when doing this with the makeup already being there. And if you do it, just let's say without wearing any eyeshadow, you just get used to drawing this line precisely. There's one thing I tell for free. If you make one little mistake, it's game over. Okay. When you head to the outer corner, you sort of like draw the line going up, because what you want to create is the lift, right? And while I'm doing this, I'm actually also mindful of my lashes. Guys, as you guys saw, I don't know if you noticed, I don't have quite a lot of hairs around my lashes, both the upper point and the lower one. So with that said, I always try to make sure that I fill those gaps, right, with either the gel, but also I go ahead I also use a mascara to kind of like bring some volume around my lash space and add on lashes as well. Okay, after drawing my wing liner, I always like to make my lines to look straight. So I'm going to go on now with a brush, with a very flat brush, just to conceal it a bit and for it to give me that nice, neat effect. So I'm going to use my concealer, just a little bit, as much as I can. Okay, the other side. Okay, And then we are then done with the eye section. Now we're moving along to the next step, the third step, which is your lash and brows. So when it comes to lashes and brows, guys, I always say this, that those two things, they either make or break your makeup. They either make your makeup look polished or they create that dull look should they be done wrong, right? And I always say they are your friend. So if you know how to connect your lashes, if you know how to select the right lashes for your eyes, then you'll never go wrong. Also with your eyebrows, keep the shape that you currently have. Should you wish to enhance it, with a nice little lift, especially around the arch area, then it's fine, but always be mindful of what you currently have in terms of your natural features and enhance it, take it from there, enhance it from there. Okay, so before, as I'm about to do my lashes, so what I said before that I do have very few lashes, né? So what I always do is pick my lashes up a bit more, curled, because they're also very curled up, right? So what I do is just pick them a bit more up while creating the volume of my lashes. And usually I would use what we call strip lashes to enhance my eyes and give my eyes a nice lift. But nowadays we have a lot of options. We live in a time where makeup is evolving, so things are being done to be convenient and easy. So instead of fighting with a lash, like myself, because I mentioned that I do have curled up lashes, and if you have curled up lashes, you probably know the struggle of trying to wear strip lashes. What I always hate is that, the gap between your natural lash and a false lash, which is a strip lash in this case. So the technique, if you still prefer strip lashes, make sure that you sort of make space, right? By applying a mascara, open your lashes up so that you can fit them properly on your skin, right in between your lashes and your skin. All right. I also like applying on my lower lashes as well. And when applying on my lower lashes, I actually like using a smaller brush of the mascara, right? And then I just sort of pick my natural lashes to come out a bit more. While I dilute the black shade to also come out very nicely. But if you want that has, long lashes, ma'am, that's good for you. I always say to all my clients that, oh my God, you look so cute, you have lashes. I spot lashes quite quick because it's one of the things I feel like I wish I had them, because I really love lashes a lot. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I'm no longer using strip lashes. I now like using what I call clusters. So like I said that I have a history when it comes to strip lashes. Sometimes they look good, sometimes they look bad because of my natural curled up lashes. And yes, if you're like myself, but you still love strip lashes, great. Just make sure that you pick your own lashes, make space, fit in the strip lash. I am falling in love with what we call strip lashes. When it comes to strip lashes, I am falling in love with what we call clusters. How they differ from strip lashes, that they're more individual, right? And you're able to install them as individual lashes. So like myself, you have, curled up lashes, you're able to actually see where you are fitting the lash. And the nice thing is that instead of putting it on top of your own natural lashes, you sort of put it under your natural lashes. And I love the applicator of the glue, right? The glue is in a form of a mascara. So what you do with the glue is that you apply it the same way you would apply a mascara, right? And then wait for few minutes, if not seconds. And then you start picking the lashes and installing them. And when it comes to shapes, you also, they have different sizes. You're able to fit in longer ones on the sides just to create, the cat eye, they call it, or wispy kind of lashes, or you're able to just fit in the same size. It's all up to you and how your lashes your eye space actually guides you. So again, when I'm doing this one, I can't really talk or else they will not look good. So I'll try and fit in maybe a bigger size on the outer corner of my eye so that it hugs the side of my eye very nicely. Then I go lower with the size as I go to the inner corner of my eye. And again, when applying clusters or lashes actually, use your natural lash size as a guide. You don't want to fit in lashes right on the inner corner or the outer corner, or else that lash will irritate you for as long as you have your makeup on. And some people do have sensitive eyes. They could start crying, start being uncomfortable, and yeah, that is because of the discomfort caused by the lash. So when doing lashes, be mindful of where your natural lashes start and where they stop, and use that as a guide. And they also look so better if you use them as a guide, because that's how naturally your eyes look like. The strategy of your eyes must be influenced of how your natural design is like. I think this one is too close on the outer corner. I can feel it as I close my eyes. Just want to bring it a bit more in. Yeah. I don't know whether I should fill in the inner corner of my eyes. I think I should not. Let me just No, it's actually fine. Then you just wait for a few minutes again, and then I'll seal it in with the product to help the lashes not to move from here. I guess this is a form of like the powder after applying liquid. Seal it in. Oh, one thing you must also be careful about is that when applying clusters, you don't apply it on your waterlines. Make sure you're like slightly above the waterline so that it does not affect, irritate your eyes or be uncomfortable. And also, these are products after all, and your eyes, they are very sensitive. They're a sensitive area in your face. Okay, the last part of the eyes step, we're doing our brows. So I'm going to use, like I mentioned, I'm going to use my brows to lead me, to lead the way I will structure them. And because I have quite dark area around my eye area, then when it comes to my brows, I will definitely just sort of like create light strokes, have them looking brown and more natural. But again, if let's say I did not have a lot of wing liner and lashes, I would also consider to have them a bit more dark, So when it comes to brows, they also need to keep the frame of your face, and where your brow is lifted, which is this area called the arch area, you also kind of like lift the product in that space, and then you create nice little strokes and fill in the gaps. This is what I always say, that when doing your brows, firstly focus on filling in the gaps before, recreating something else. Because the moment you fill in a lot, or rather, draw in a lot of product in your brow, they will look so drawn, number one. Two, they will scream artificial, if that makes sense. But again, it's all up to you and the look that you are doing. But for this type of look that I'm doing, keeping it simple and with the light strokes works best. Then use a spoolie. This is a spoolie to connect the brow liner and your natural brows. All right. And then you probably would not see my brow that much. The best way, or what we need to add now, is a concealer just to clean up my brows and highlight my brow bone so that you are able to see what I just created on this brow. And I also love using, nowadays there are different types of products, also when it comes to the type of brow liner. I like using this thin brow liner because it helps to mimic the hairs quite nicely, all right? And yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this, when doing your brows, just make sure that you mimic the direction of your natural brows and let that again guide you as to how your brow finish looks like. And when you brush with the spoolie as well, you still mimic the direction of your brows. I also have seen a lot of people brushing their brows up and leaving them as they are. Kanti, you have to just brush it up and also direct it to the natural shape. So next thing up now is going to be the concealer, and then we are done with our eyes. Look for this. When applying a concealer, I always choose a shade that again is slightly light compared to my complexion, simply because I want my brows to sort of lift, and also I want my brows to also be highlighted well. So I pick it up here and create very soft lines from the inner corner right to the outer corner. The goal here, remember, is to keep the frame and let your future or the eye design, natural eye design, be your guide. I like to immediately actually blend my concealer because it dries quickly. So when blending, as soon as I apply it, it actually helps to blend it well and help it to sort of like sit right instead of like leaving those harsh lines. All right, I hope you guys see the difference on this eye compared to the other eye. A precise line, follow the lift, just there by a brow bone. Make sure that your line is still straight, and there you go. Pull down the product, immediately blend. Okay, the top part of the brow, I like using a foundation, the one that I was using on my face, to sort of like clean up my brows. I don't like using a concealer because a concealer can leave out those harsh lines, and the goal here is to create harmony. So now we're going to move on to the second last step of the 5 non-negotiables to understand your face really well. And that is color, which is your intelligence. So when it comes to, creating colors, could be on the eyeshadow actually, blush, or the lip choice, it also should be guided, 1, by what you want to try to create, 2, your undertone. Your undertone ranks high most of the time because you don't want to, indulge in on colors that are going to, in the end of your makeup, session, make your face actually look so dull, or make your face, lack the connection of your features and the face and the undertone. So my blush selection, it will range between pinks, reds, orange, because my undertone is golden, it's warm. Okay, remember the last thing here before I leave on step 3 is that everything you apply as liquid, you have to set it with powder. So I'm going to apply here face powder that looks exactly like the concealer shade I've used. Okay, next up, I wipe my hands. Oh, before we go to the next step, actually, we just have to bring back my complexion by using a contouring shade to create that dimension on my face. So I'll be using a dark 1 to 2 shades darker, my complexion, to sort of like contour the side of my face. Hope you guys can see it. All right, this side as well. Then take a little bit of bronzer that is slightly warm. And when I'm saying warm, a shade that speaks to your undertone. Still, it must be a warm shade that kind of like brings back your naturalness, né? Because the translucent powders, they take away a bit from having your shade, you know, being more visible. So in order to bring that back, you use a darker or a bronzer that is perfect shade for your skin. And then step 4, like I mentioned, color is your intelligence, basically. When it comes to color selection, again, your undertone does really matter here. You need to consider it. 2, you need to know what type of look that you want to do. So the questions around what look am I trying to do, what type of event or place that you're going to. So the colors that you want to choose when it comes to your lip and your blush, they really, you know, not necessarily depend on that, but those things could really guide you to see, you know, select the colors that you want. So I like using a blush that is between, I would say, that gives a peachy element, not peachy, that gives a reddish finish. It could be a dark pink to a red shade. So this one, it does give a very red undertone. And I feel like it goes really well with my skin type, as well as my undertone. And one thing about blush, it literally makes your makeup very, you know, youthful, fresh, and yeah, it just elevates the entire thing. As you guys can see, okay, I'm still seeing some little harsh lines around my nose. So it's very important when you see a section when it still needs to be blended, to go back and blend, right? And not feel like, oh, it's probably fine. No, go back and blend, go back and make it look more subtle. This is the entire goal here by using these 5 non-negotiables, is to create a face that is flawless, 1. 2, a face that is, you know, connected, right? That's why we always emphasize as makeup artists or people in the beauty industry is that blend, 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 blend. The theory of blending is very important. It really does make or break your makeup. So now this section is quite dark. I'm going to use again a powder shade that is, you know, slightly 2 tones lighter compared to what you guys see here. And yeah, I like using again powder to help with what I just have said. Okay, at least that is decent, right? Okay, next up, my lip. So, like I said, colors that I'm going to be choosing, they really need to blend well with the makeup look as well. So I love using tones around browns, nudes, pink, red. And I think today I'm going to be using a pink and a brown just to create an ombre lip color that will go well with the eye design that I have on. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So first things first, I like using a lipstick as a form of a lip liner, but you still can use a lip liner. It's all up to you, what you are more comfortable with. So when it comes to my lipstick, let me clean my mouth quickly. When it comes to a lipstick, I always make sure that I always make sure that I draw a line on my existing lip liner, right? So the goal here is just to enhance what I naturally have, so that with having a lip liner done, or applying a lip liner, it helps that your lipstick, that it wouldn't like bleed over your lip line. And I always say, even if you have and also for people who have, quite big lips, it's nice to apply a lip liner. It helps to control your lip shade. Your lip design looks really much better with the lip liner being done. As you guys can see, I have dark lips. So what I usually do is that I enhance an area where it's not too visible, which this area, the inner part of my lip. So I use like a pink shade or a nude lipstick, and today I'll be using a nude lipstick. Okay, so today I'll be using a nude lipstick and I'll focus it on the inner areas of my lip. So in that way, you're able to see the lip liner. And like I said, I have dark lips, so when it comes to me, I really have to apply the two tones very well. But if you have light, lip shades, then you will be able to see the amount of lip liner you need and the amount of lipstick that you need. Okay, let me focus here. Okay, again, blending is so important. It ensures that the two shades are blended together very well. I just want to fill in my lip liner once more, because I feel like I went on with the pink lipstick. Now I need my lip liner again. Okay, just again to control my inner lip a bit more. Then I blend it all together by doing this. And then from here, it's really all up to whatever look I'm doing. You can either throw in a lip gloss or anything. Sometimes I also use a lip powder, which could be your blush, the color that would be looking like this, just to sustain your matte lip. But in this case, I love a glossy lip because I feel like it does accentuate everything, right? And also it's also sustainable to wear a lip gloss, especially if I'll be engaging with people, speaking a lot. It will make my lip section quite neat. So blend this for the last time before I throw in my gloss. I throw in my gloss within my lip design. And then voila, you are done. And then the last thing to do on my face right now is to, again, I like an under eye that is quite light. So I'm going to go on and lighten my under eye a bit more and throw in my pressed powder. This is also part of step one. It's just that I couldn't done it then because I still needed to put in some products and do some other steps. So now I'm going back to step one, making sure that step one is still intact. All right. Perfect. One last thing. Another pressed powder. Just a little. I think at some point I was holding my skin around here. So I'm going to take a brush with a little bit of powder in it and just diffuse it around my forehead in case you guys would see some finger prints. And then I go back to my brows. Okay, like I mentioned, you go back to everything that you feel like they still need a bit of touch and, and fix a little. Okay, and there you have it. Final thing before we go on to the last step is applying shimmer, right? On your cheeks, just to add a little bit of flavor. This is really optional. You can do it if you need to. And depending on the look that you want, it's really just an optional thing. If you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't, it's really all up to you. And also because I've already enhanced my nose by making them a bit more slick, I also like, putting a little bit of, I actually use an eyeshadow. Putting a little of eyeshadow right on the tip of my nose, just to pick my nose a bit up. And this way, it will make my nose look a bit more smaller. All right, I think I went on a bit too much. And decrease it a bit on the sides. Is it me? Whenever I do my makeup, I always have something on my nose. Like I always have to control my nose. And it is the most annoying thing ever. Okay. A little bit of control around there. And not allow it to bleed on the sides. I really just wanted to point just on the tip of my nose. So I can go back with my pressed powder, darker shade, to sort of remove it, dilute it, for it to occur exactly there, right? And then final step, it's practice. That leads to mastery. Practicing frequently does lead your makeup skills into mastery. And yeah, it's very important that you don't copy everything you see on the trends. You don't second guess everything or guess everything that you want to try. The most important thing and the final step is that practice to understand your face shapes, face features, and your face as a whole by using this guide of 5 non-negotiables to understand your face better. So final thing is to apply my 2 sprays, one setting spray, one is the mist to hold my makeup for as long as I need it. This really helps. This really helps with bringing back your shade back and your natural complexion back, and it gives that element of having your makeup looking luminous and not too dewy and not too matte. And the other one is to keep your makeup, right? And create that, element where your makeup does not transfer on your clothes. Ooh, it actually smells. Ooh. And we are done with our look, beautiful faces. And like I said, the last step is the most important one. Practicing until you get it right. And like anything that is a skill, it needs so much time of practice, and it's possible for you to know it as long as we use the Face Value 5 as your guide, because more than anything, it will make you understand your features first, your face as a whole, but also understand the most important fundamental things such as your undertones, your skin type, and all your skin needs. And this does really go beyond just beauty, because it can also make you understand your skin prep range and everything that flows from that. Okay, that's it from me on this episode. I would like to first say thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And if you'd like to learn the techniques and go deep on the techniques, we have the link below, which is our Working Woman Manual program. And yeah, the link is attached below. It will help to assist that everything I've done now is dive deep in terms of the technique. And also, we, like I mentioned on the the last episode that we are doing a lot of things that we have brought for our beautiful faces, and one of them is our monthly classes. And yeah, if you want to join our monthly classes, please make sure that you join our wait list on below. And yeah, please don't forget then to subscribe, join the conversation, tell me in the comments section that what it is that is part of the 5 techniques that I've shared now, part of the 5 non-negotiables that you still find as a struggle and why. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that your face has value. Honor it, learn it, and just be confident about it. Thank you, bye.
Oh, you look gorgeous, wow.